Hey guys, how's it going? I'm getting ready to plant some gorgeous peonies in my garden this morning, and I just wanted to give you a few care tips because these are one of the most easy to grow flowers you can put in your garden. And once they're established, they last for years, like decades long. So they're just a wonderful one to have. There are so many gorgeous peonies out there. These are just starting to open, but these flowers get huge and just beautiful for cut flowers to bring inside or just to enjoy out in the garden. So there are three main types of peonies. There's herbaceous peonies, which I'm going to be focusing on in this video because that's what I'm planting. They're the type that die back to the ground every fall, and then the next spring they emerge with these beautiful red tinged stems, and then they turn into this just beautiful small shrub in the garden full of flowers. There are tree peonies, which we've done a video on previously. We will link that down below if you want to learn a little bit more. But basically they're a type of peony that create a more woody stem above ground that stays intact. So they lose their leaves in the fall, but when they leaf out in the spring, they'll leaf out on those stems. And then there are Ito peonies, which are a hybrid cross between an herbaceous and a tree peony. And the benefit of Itos is that they are prolific bloomers and there are a ton of colors available. So you can find potted peonies like these right here at your garden center. Most of the time in the spring, you'll find a pretty good selection of them. You might also be able to buy them as bare root or tubers. And I believe the best time of the year to plant those is in the fall, and it is spring now. I have some tubers I'm going to plant in the ground, but I figure they're better off planted in the ground now than hanging on to them until fall. So I'll show you how to plant those roots in just a second. These are super easy. All we have to do is find a spot that gets full sun, a minimum of 6 to 8 hours of sun for them to perform the best. They also like moist but really well draining soil, and you want to give them a space that has good airflow. So like this area right here, I have a fence right behind me. There's going to be just a little mini hedge. I've got 3 peonies back here. They'll get plenty of air. If they don't have enough air and you've got high humidity or it's a moister area, they can suffer from powdery mildew or a fungus called botrytis. Those are the two most common on peonies, so just keep that in mind. So real quick, let me just talk to you about this specific variety I'm planting. This is called Coral Charm. So like I said, this one is just starting to open and they will get nice and big, beautiful coral color. They're a semi-double. And they are really hardy down to -40 degrees, and they get to be like 28-30 inches tall and about a 30 to 36 inch spread. So I'm going to kind of plant them back from this little row of lilies right here to where they can kind of spill out into the driveway behind me. I think that'll be really pretty to see those big bright pink blooms kind of emerging from underneath this white fence. They do like a pretty fertile soil as well. So today when I plant them, I'm going to be adding in some Biotone starter fertilizer into each one of their holes. And this is pretty good soil back here, so I don't think I need to worry about anything else. So let's get these 3 in the ground, and then I'm going to talk about how to best support the plants with stakes. Okay, so I got all 3 of these in the ground. So I've got this one here, there's this one that doesn't have any blooms on it currently, and then that one right there. And I think that's going to form a beautiful backdrop. I've got, like I said, lilies that bloom yellow. I've got a blue chiffon Rosa Sharon standard. So these are my summer color shrubs, including a butterfly bush over there, a Miss Violet. So I have lots of summer color and I was lacking spring. So this is going to bring some beautiful spring color in for years to come. And before I move on to showing you guys how to plant the tubers of peonies, I want to talk about staking. So there are a couple different methods that are pretty common for staking peonies. This one is probably one of the most common. This is a peony ring. It's much like a tomato cage, but it's a little sturdier and it's wider, and you can get these in multiple different sizes, but I prefer a different type of stake. I've got one right here. This is called a grow through grid. Ideally, you would have these in place before the plant starts growing in the spring, so as it grows, it can grow up through the grid. The reason I like these better than the hoops or the cages is that these hold up individual branches in more of an aesthetically pleasing mound. If they grow up through this type of staking system, they'll still kind of tend to flop from the center if they've got huge blooms. This one holds everything a little bit more just rounded. So there's 3 stakes right here that you attach to the top of the grow through grid like this. So I'm going to attempt to feed these blooms through just to kind of show you what it might look like. I've got to do it anyway. I've got to have the grid going. And these I just leave out. I leave them out all winter long, and they're just in place for when the peony starts growing the following spring. Whew, I think I did it. So see how that already holds that bloom up a little bit better? And then I'm going to decide where I want my stakes, and we'll put those in the ground. They're really easy to use. Much like that. And there are different sizes of these available as well. So if you've got huge established peonies that are really big at the base, you can get heavier duty versions. And you know, I may have to do that eventually, but these peonies don't get like so massive like some varieties do, so I may be okay with this size. So I'm going to go ahead and put my other 2 grids on, and then we'll go plant the tubers. So we're in the location where I want to plant the bare root peonies, which I have right here. This is a variety called Laura Dessert, and it's a beautiful, fully double, creamy white and creamy yellow peony, and I thought it would be really beautiful right here. This area looks shady now because it is morning, but it does get a really good long block of afternoon sun, so they should be very happy here. And I am planting them kind of forward in this flower bed because I do want to come in probably and plant some climbing roses behind them, so I wanted to leave a little bit of space. So what you want to do to plant your bare root is make sure you find the highest bud on the crown. So you can see the crown of the plant right here. This is the highest bud right there. We want to make sure that that sits about 1 to 2 inches below the soil surface. If you plant it too deep, it can delay bloom time, and it can also make the plant not bloom at all. So you just want to be very mindful of that. I've already dug up my hole. You can see the soil right here is really pretty nice, just perfect. I'm going to set my root down in there, and you can see where the soil surface is. It'll sit just about 2 inches below the surface. I'm going to toss a little bit of starter fertilizer in right around the root, and then just fill back the hole. We'll tamp that down, cover it back up with a little bit of mulch, and before I get too far, I'm going to put my grid stake over it so I can remember that I have something planted here for the first thing, and then once it starts growing, the grid will be in place and I won't have to worry about it. That looks pretty darn good. Okay, so I've just got 2 more to plant. So I got all 3 of these planted, and I think they're going to be gorgeous here, especially once I get some roses and clematis growing right behind them. There are a couple more things I want to talk to you about, but I think I want to go back to the first peonies to talk to you about those things because I can actually show you on the plant. So the first thing is when the peonies come out in bud in spring, they do secrete a really sweet sap out of the buds that ants and flies and bees are attracted to. It does not harm the plant at all. They just come up there to feed on it. Some people think it helps to open the blooms. I think that that is a myth, but it doesn't hurt your plant whatsoever. When you get ready to cut your peonies to bring them inside, if you see any ants on them, you can just rinse them off, super easy. The second thing is you do want to deadhead your peonies when the blooms are done. That way the plant doesn't send energy into creating seeds, because they do create, it's kind of a neat looking seed pod, but you don't want your plant sending energy into seeds. You want it sending energy rather into its root system so it can establish even more and create more flowers for the next year. So when you get ready to deadhead, it's really easy. There's really no rhyme or reason to how far you cut back the stem, but like on this one right here, I'd probably cut it back right into the bushier part of the shrub. That way you don't have a bare or random stem sticking up out further than the rest of the leaves. You just want to make it look aesthetically pleasing. Third, they are heavy feeders. So like I put today some starter fertilizer in the hole. Usually after they get done blooming, I'll toss some plant tone fertilizer around the base of the shrub. That way they can utilize that and build up their root system even more. And then you do want to cut the peonies back down to the ground in the fall after the first frost kind of takes their foliage. So anyway, that's all there is to peonies. Once you get them in the ground and you get them going, it just is a beautiful thing to have in your garden. So hope this video was helpful, you guys, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.